Welcome back to Tammy Tuesday's podcast, the podcast of life, love, and purpose. Super excited for our guest today, Dr. Carie Powers. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I want to say congratulations to you
on
your podcast, Tammy Tuesday. It's an exciting new venture for you.
Yeah.
I actually listened to a couple of the podcasts, and I'm honored that you chose me to participate. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here, Carie. Honestly, the thing that's so beautiful about what our conversation is going to be is that we have had really great behind the scenes talks about things that have been going on with you.
Yes.
And beautiful transitions that have been happening. And that's a lot about what I want to talk about today.
Okay.
This podcast, people that have been listening know that we talk about so many different things. And a lot of it is based on things that people are experiencing. And I know you've been experiencing a lot lately. It started with it. Well, it's funny. And I'll just kind of preface this because what made me want to get to know you and get closer to what's going on with you is similar to another friend of mine, Gelly, who I interviewed recently.
Yes.
I started to see these posts that you were making on your social media. And it was about this trip that you were taking to Egypt. And as soon as I saw the photos that you were posting, I was like, oh my gosh, something big is happening. Like I really could tell just energetically, there were things that were clearly coming through to me on deep levels. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to reach out to Carie. Because it's funny because we had met through various different channels a few different times.
Yes.
But it was like the first time you and I really got connected as friends. So let me back up a little bit though. Dr. Carie Powers, explain what you're a doctor of. Give us just a snippet of some of your background before we dive into the juicy stuff.
Sure. So I'm doctoral prepared in education. So kind of tell you a little bit about my background. So I'm a native of Arizona, so I grew up here. I'm one of four. I think you might be the fourth.
Fifth.
You're the fifth. So we're rare here. But I had an opportunity really through my mom and dad. They, in essence, painted a map, if you will, of success for me. And that included education. So my father is a doctoral prepared. My mother was a school teacher growing up. So you can imagine growing up with two parents that are very focused in education. I had certain opportunities and different things that led to education. So I went to ASU, Sun Devil.
Yes.
There. And that was actually in fine arts. So I have a creative background as well. So very much performance art, if you will. I grew up dancing and ballet and different things, musical theater. But then I had an opportunity and I figured out I had a knack for leadership. And I went over to University of New England and didn't physically go. It was remote. So I'm still a native here. I couldn't move, but I picked somewhere that was clear across the U.S. to get a new vibes, just a different aspect, different culture. And at University of New England, I got my doctorate in educational leadership.
Nice.
And that led to me really deciding, well, I left the performance and the creative side, and I found out that, this leadership side is strong, operations, management, and it led me to the corporate world, which I'd love to talk to you a little bit about.
Yeah. This just a smidge closer for you. There you go. Okay, keep going.
Yes. So, let's fast forward. So I got on my education, and what's interesting, about 2 decades later, here I am, worked in running nursing colleges across the U.S.
Wow.
From, can you imagine, East Coast to Pacific time zone.
Yeah.
So if you do the math, it's up to 15 hours a day.
Yikes.
And burnout.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Burnout is real. And, I'm also a mom. So I had a 10-year-old and a 19-year-old at home. I've got an extra large golden doodle. Got a lot of people who need a lot of things, not only just my colleagues at work. And what I found after working 2 decades is when you do good work, and I'm sure the audience can relate to this, is that they reward you with more work.
Yep.
And not only with more work, sometimes less resources to do it in.
Mm-hmm.
And
they expect more.
Absolutely. And it happened during the pandemic. So then I've running these both time zones, burning the candle at both ends, doing more, trying to do my best. I've grown up with a very strong work ethic, and it just came to be a point, Tammy, where I said, I have to choose me or them. Mm-hmm. There's this dualism, right? Where they talk about, we have a monkey mind, a carnal mind, and then we have this spirituality. And I was 5% spirituality and 95% monkey mind.
Yep.
And it was making me ill. And that burnout just hit to a point one day where I thought, I cannot continue this way. It's, this roadmap of success. I'm so thankful that my parents gave that to me. But what in essence it did is it created a fancy prison for me.
Wow.
I have a nice house, or we've got nice clothes, and we can go out to dinner and that type of thing. But for what cost? For me to have to work to bring in, right?
Yeah.
To continue that cycle.
Feeding
it's not
the beast.
Worth it.
Yeah, you're feeding the beast, and it gets you. It gets you.
Yeah.
So what was the shift that made you say, enough?
Yeah. Well, I started to get ill, and in ill meaning mentally and physically. So I do a lot of yoga and different things, but I didn't have time to work on myself in terms of go internally, meditation or, breath work and those different things. And so when I felt myself really getting to a point where I can't get through the day, that was the tipping point to say, I need to make a change. And so in doing so, I made the change, jumped, and I have a lot more.
When you say that, did you leave your job or did you just dive into yourself?
Well,
or both?
A little bit of both.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. I had another initiative that's on the side. So it wasn't just, jumping into a cold pool. I did have another initiative that I'm working on. So that was nice. But really what it did is it afforded me the time to breathe, to go, okay, I just told you who Carie was, but now who is Carie?
Right.
And so here I am looking back, and in hindsight, I think you'll find this interesting. When I was maybe closer to 4 years old, I realized I had gifts. So we've heard of the clairs, clairsentience. One of the most popular is clairvoyance.
Yep.
Right? I think we've all heard of that, right? Where you can see energy, and I could see auras. And I knew this at 4 years old, right? A couple of the others are claircognizant. Is there a clear knowing, right? Or clairsentient, clear feeling, clear tangent, clear touching, that kind of thing.
What did you do with that? So you remember that at 4? That's young to have that remember that at that age.
Yes. I didn't know what to do with it. It scared me.
Okay.
There was this fear. And so I shut it off. So can you imagine at 4, I have at least 3 or 4 of the 8 gifts. I thought, I don't know what this is. So shut it off. Well, what happened is it snowballed. So let's say fast forward to when I'm 15 years old, maybe in high school. I've got a couple of examples I can give you. Not only did I shut it off, but I'm aware now, because I'm older, that I have these abilities, and there is a fear mixed with it. So I thought, well, I have to control it because I don't have the tools and resources to know how to properly work with this. What is this?
Could you talk to anybody? Could you talk to anybody?
I kept it to myself.
Okay. That's very common.
Mm-hmm. And so, and I'll give you an example. One of them is clairtangent. So at 15, can you imagine I'm writing a sentence, homework, and if I'm writing and I have a feeling and it's negative, I had to rewrite it, thinking positive. So can you imagine that almost snowballed into an OCD type of, because I'm controlling energy, because I can see the energy. And if it's negative, I don't want it negative. I'm a very positive person. So I want to try to control it. It was rough.
Yeah, I bet.
So one of the things that led me, and I'll get into Egypt and how my spirituality blossomed, if you will, and this was a critical point. I had a book, and this might have been in college. And on the front cover, there was a pyramid, right? The Great Pyramid of Giza.
Yeah.
And I still have these gifts. I still don't have the resources to work with them. And I'm still
Trying to control it.
Yeah. And to a point where I was on medication, and that was horrible. You can imagine. Right now, I won't even take a Tylenol. So, there's nothing. But at the time, that's what I thought I needed to do to get by day to day.
Right.
I have these expectations, a strong work ethic, this roadmap. So I need to stay focused and structured. Right.
Well, and you were trying to medicate because you didn't know what to do with it, which this is such a huge point. So many people that feel the way you're describing that you were feeling, that is what they do. They say, I don't know what this is. It's freaking me out. It's causing anxiety, stress, sleep apnea, whatever it is. And they say, okay, there's a pill for that.
Right.
So they just say they ask their doctors, what do we do? Here's a pill.
Yes.
And it's so sad. So common.
It's so common. And it truly is sad because what it did, it worked. It numbed me.
Sure.
But it numbed me in all the wrong reasons, right? And all the wrong ways.
It numbed all your beauty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I lost my personality. I lost that intuitive ability. So many things. And it actually got quite scary because side effects you can only imagine. So that was a wake-up call. But going back to this is, I clearly remember to this day, and I was in college and I had this book and there's this pyramid. And I'm clairtangent and I can sense and things. And I had been told, well, I think the audience, everybody is very familiar with King Tut. When they discovered King Tut's tomb, Howard Carter. And when he opened it, there could possibly be a curse. Right. And
I have goosebumps.
Right. And, if you do research and just basic level research, well, gosh, you can't walk into these tombs or you'll be cursed or bad things will happen. And, knowing my history of always trying to stay on the positive, I thought, oh my goodness. And I sensed with this book, I couldn't even touch it. I set it down. I did my homework. It was a history book or something. And I remember putting it against a wall when I was done with my homework, but the wall couldn't touch my bedroom because I couldn't sleep if that book was touching the wall that was touching my bedroom. That I'm illustrating how strong of a sense this was for Egypt specifically and pyramids. And I thought, wow, that's odd.
I'm like covered right now. That's really interesting.
Right. So there was this extensive fear with anything related to Egypt or pyramids.
Fear.
Let's fast forward, right? So now I've left the corporate world and through what I would have called synchronicity, and now I call electromagnetic connection. And I'll explain why. But at the time, I thought through synchronicity, I was led to an opportunity to go to Egypt on a pilgrimage with 12, I think there may have been 13 other light workers. And
this was when?
This was, it was a year, it was, let's just say October, not this last year, but the year prior.
Okay.
I started seeing, information about this and I thought, well, that's interesting.
Things keep showing up
for about a year. And the leader, who is gifted and amazing, and her name is Carie Powers, and I connected, and now she's a dear friend. And she had said, let's make this happen. And it was expensive, right? You have to make payments and, we've got all these responsibilities and things.
It was you were committing to it.
I was committing and I thought, boy, she doesn't know my background, my fear, but I didn't have the fear anymore. At this point, I've recognized my gifts and I'm almost curious and wanting to explore what can I do with these.
Well, it changed from fear to curiosity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said. So went through, made the payments a year later. I end up flying over by myself, meeting this group that I haven't met any of them. And with the intent of, I'm there to learn about Egypt. I don't know much about it.
Wait, back up for a second.
Yes.
So when you committed to this, how did people in your life respond?
It was out of the norm for me.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm asking you that.
Because I've been very dedicated and very structured to the 9 to 5.
Workaholic.
Mm-hmm. And here I am taking a trip where? To Egypt for how long? For 12 days?
By yourself.
By yourself? have you gone anywhere before? Well, I have, but people thought, is it safe? I got all the questions.
all the questions. How did you respond to that? How did you move through it? Because you clearly got there. Didn't matter, did it?
It didn't matter. Nothing was going to get me off of that trajectory to get there. Once I committed, I was empowered. Mm-hmm. I thought, no, this is for me.
This is mine.
This is for me. I got to a point because I used to always, and I still do, but we care what people think.
Yep.
And I want to be a people pleaser, and this is out of the norm, and I'm not sure they would approve me going for this long or this. And I set all of that aside, and I said, no, I'm choosing me, and this is what I'm doing.
So amazing.
So nothing got in my way, right, to make this happen. And I thought, well, okay, so
it's such a brave leap, and I love, that's why I'm so happy you're telling this, because you have to listen to that. You chose you first. And now all these amazing things that are happening are because you did that. So keep going.
Yes. And, it was interesting, Tammy, when I chose me, I left this out, but there were a couple months where I was lost, right? I talked about taking that breath because I had been defined by everybody else.
Yep.
I was playing a character, and it was a great one. I'm blessed. I have no regrets. It brought me to who I was today. But now I had to breathe and pause and figure out, well, who is this Carie? Defined by nobody else but myself.
Right.
Right.
Who's the real Carie?
So that's where, I was going over to Egypt thinking, okay, maybe this will give me one experience, one piece of the puzzle to find out who I really am. Mm-hmm. And, when I got over there, I got more than who I am. I got 9 experiences that I will describe as otherworldly.
Wow.
That I was not expecting. I thought, oh, this will be cool. I'll, get to see some pyramids.
And it's an adventure.
And I went on an adventure that changed my entire life.
Oh. So. Okay. Let's go.
All right. So what I thought I would do, because I do have some really neat experiences, and I thought maybe I'd go through like 4 of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so how was the trip set up? Because you were with a group of people that were not on the same mission, because nobody's on the same mission, but they were there to explore and get a deeper understanding of this place.
Yeah.
Within themselves, I'm sure, too. So it was, I'm sure, a mix of different people, too.
It was.
Because you didn't know anybody.
I didn't know anybody.
When you showed up.
And everybody was so wonderful. Just a wonderful group. The majority were what you can describe as, they were in their self-discovery phase as well. Gifted, light workers. We had 2 kiddos with us as well. And one was a husband and a wife. One was 2, and then the other was about 10 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So can you imagine? It was just really a neat, diverse group of people, but all like-minded.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, we fly and we visit Aswan and get to ride camels and, see the open markets and that kind of thing. That was really neat. And we're cruising from Upper Egypt to Lower Egypt down the Nile. Mm-hmm. And then we would stop along the various temples, tombs, and pyramids along the way. As well as, in the day we'd do yoga and meditate and breath work and different exercises and things. So it's just a really incredible experience. So the first inkling that there was some sort of what I would say is magic is when we visited Abu Simbel. And it's a temple, and, we walk in, and I'm just amazed at the hieroglyphics, and it's just beautiful. And we do the whole tour, and I'm just in awe. And I thought, well, this is incredible. But what I didn't know is the magic behind that. And that is that this one gal that was with me, she takes pictures, and she likes to look in the backgrounds of pictures and look for orbs and different things. And
sure.
I thought, that's fun. She took 100 pictures at this temple. And we were sitting on the shuttle bus going to our next location. And she showed me this picture, and she goes, look at this. And one of her, she's an expertise at angel reading. Mm-hmm. And it's a clear blue sky and these beautiful temple walls, and the sun is shining. And then if you zoom in, how I can describe this as is if you were asked to think of what an angel would look like straight out of the Bible.
Right.
This little orb looks exactly like that. And there's light underneath it. And I was taken aback. And I thought, is this a bird? There were no birds. It was still, I was there for quite a few hours. It took my breath away. And I thought, my goodness, what? And so that started my journey to open my mind to go, okay, maybe there's something more.
In that moment when she was showing you these photos,
That
you're like,
exact moment.
It was like, whoa, something's happening.
Yes. I remember she expanded the photo and I lost my breath.
Is that the one that you showed me?
That is the one I showed you.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. I remember when you showed me, I was, oh my gosh.
Chills.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that's so cool. That made my trip right there. We're only on day 1 or 2.
Right.
So then...
but you're like, okay, something, like your channel started opening up.
Yes. So the Temple of Esna, it's about 30 miles outside of Luxor. I believe we're still in Upper Egypt. And this temple is very unique. Again, we're walking through as a group, and the group sticks together, and there's an Egyptologist that walks around. And then we have time afterwards to kind of go off on our own. And so the group goes one way, and I wander off the other way. And I find myself looking at a side chamber, almost as if you would consider it a confessional in today's cathedral.
Right.
And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I want to go in there. And I look around and, there's the guards they kind of follow you. They want you to kind of stay on path. But what I noticed about this chamber and why I wanted to go in is there was a staff, if you will, with a snake on the side kind of going up, kind of like you see with our medical staff.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And then above the door, there are wings and the Ra sign, but it's been etched away. So typically in Egypt, what we learned is that when they went to get rid of knowledge, they etch it away from the walls. So this had a lot of destruction, unfortunately. And so I walk in.
Did they talk about why?
From my understanding, is the next reign, the next pharaohs, if they didn't like the information that was passed on, they would chip away the prior knowledge.
Okay, interesting.
That's how they passed on knowledge at that time. So if it was chipped away, well, then the story's changed.
Okay.
So I went in and, it smelled like urine in this. And I thought, oh gosh, okay, well, maybe I'll step away. But what caught my eye was this rock. And it looked as of a different material than we have here on Earth. It looked like an asteroid.
Yeah.
And it was smooth on the top. And I thought, well, somebody's touched that before. It was completely smooth. And so being clairtangent with touch, put my hands on this rock. And it started to feel like, if you think of a magnet and it pulsates. And I thought, well, that's cool. I've done a lot of research about frequency. So then I start to add humming. Mm-hmm. Now, I can't hum out loud because the guards don't want you to do that.
They specifically tell you not to?
They
want it silent.
They want it silent.
Okay.
And as a group, we would sing in some of these, right? And when you sing, it just reverberates on the walls and different things. So I walk in, and so I'm humming under my breath because I don't want the guard to come in. And I've got my hands on this rock. And Tammy, as best I can describe, it was a Kundalini awakening that was happening in that chamber when I combined the touch
and the sound
frequency. And then as I started to feel it, my, chakras moved all the way up. It got stronger. So I started to hum louder, and I thought, oh, they're going to come in here. But it was at the point where it took me outside of who I was, and I didn't care if anybody came in or not.
Right, you were having an experience.
I can describe it as a Kundalini awakening.
Wow. So dive more into that. It just was, explain it a little bit.
So it starts with a vibration on your hands, and then it starts to move through your chakras from the base, almost as if, we can relate it to relations.
Yeah.
But it's more powerful, more sacred, more ethereal.
Right. Than physical
relations. And it starts and goes through every chakra. And as it continues to go up, it gets stronger and more ethereal to where you don't have a control anymore. This grace, this essence takes over and just goes all the way out to my crown chakra.
How long did it last?
I was in there probably 10 minutes.
Wow.
My friends that are on this group started coming around. What are you doing? And I said, so I was distracted at that point, and I even have the photographer took a picture. And then my other friend took a picture. So I actually have some photos at the end of this experience. And then, of course, I was distracted. And so I removed it. And I said, you guys should go in there, touch that rock. It was incredible. And I'm not doing it justice describing.
I understand. It was an experience that you can't put into words.
But again, this was just day, maybe 2 or 3. It was a temple we were going to look at for the historical significance. And I came out of there with something I have never felt, seen, or touched before.
Right. Did anybody else have any kind of experience like that?
No. And I think I was intuitively guided because I looked at that staff with the snake going up, and because I'm looking at the messages and the patterns and saying, this was something significant. It was etched away. There must be something here. And then I saw the rock that was all smooth, and I thought, well, let's touch this. And it just kind of led.
Yeah, you were pulled. Okay. So then what?
Okay. So the next, I want to talk about this one. So we go to Karnak Temple.
Okay.
Karnak Temple has a shrine in there. It's Sekhmet. And Sekhmet, think of a lion head on a female body. Mm-hmm. And Sekhmet is the protector, feared by all, but also able to heal all. So a very fierce warrior. Okay. Sekhmet, from my understanding, is the daughter of Ra, the sun god, and Hathor, which you'll hear people refer to as the mother alien. Mm-hmm. She has a triangle face. Mm-hmm.
What do they refer to that? There's a name.
It's in the Dandara temple, and it's Hathor.
Yeah, Hathor. Okay.
Hathor. So each of the members of our group get an opportunity to go into this shrine, and it is one of the last Sekhmet statues that's standing there, and it had at one point been crumbled. Somebody had put it back together, put it in its original standing, position. Wow. And this room is under lock and key. So we're friends with these guards, and they let us in one at a time. And who was in was the guard, the leader of the group, and the photographer. And it's a dark room. And if you Google or you look it up on YouTube under the Karnak Temple, you will see a lot of people have many experiences of thousands of orbs floating in this room.
Okay.
And I knew that. I did some research going in.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came my turn, I was a little nervous, but I wasn't in there alone. And they opened the door, and then they closed the door. And I'm finding myself face to face with this statue, and third eye to third eye, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking, and I get quiet, and I'm kind of meditating, and I start to kind of tremble, and I get a telepathic message. I'm not going to share here with this group, but it was 9 words that was delivered directly from her third eye to my third eye, clear as day.
You could hear it audibly?
I could hear it telepathically in my mind. Okay. Clear. And so I telepathically repeated back. It was almost like an assignment, if you will.
Okay.
And I agreed. And then they took the picture and whatnot, and I walked out. And when I walked out, I had tears streaming. And as you leave this shrine, there are what I think are 7 portals, walkways, doorways that you walk out. And I made sure I walked through all 7. I didn't want to skip one of them, right? I'm walking through these 7 portals. And as I'm walking, that message is repeating. over and over. Okay.
And it felt like a directive. And you don't want to share it, so that's okay. But it was.
There will be a time when I share.
Okay.
And so I thought, oh my goodness, okay, I've got this directive. And so I didn't want to forget it. So I'm repeating it to make sure I remember, but I didn't have to worry about that because it was
there already.
It's there. We walk around the temple, and this is where it really gets interesting and why I'm telling you this story, because it kind of segues into the next set of stories and connects it all together. So we leave there and we head on into, I guess it's Lower Egypt. We're in Luxor now. And we get an opportunity to go to the Valley of the Kings and the tomb of Ramses VI. Now, the tomb of Ramses VI is one of the most decorated tombs that you'll find. We skipped some of the other tombs purposely to visit this one.
You wanted to go there, yeah.
And so I walk in, and again, this time the guard looks at me and says, there is sarcophagus and there's these walls and these different chambers and tombs and things. But there's this main room, and the guard says, come here. And there is a order, and he says, tuck under, go ahead. Of course I was going to do it, right? There's no more fear in me. So I go under, and I find myself looking at this mural of sorts. They have the Book of Dead, the Book of the Life, the Book of the Gates, and I think it was the Book of the Gates wall. And it paints the afterlife, almost as if we had the Bible painted on the ceiling here. It's the Egyptian afterlife.
Right.
And I go under, and he says, lean against that. If you can imagine a pyramid, again, of that same material where I had my hands in the Esna temple, it's that same dark magnetic material.
Okay.
And it's at a slope, a pyramid slope. Comes up to a triangle. So I sit down and lean my back against this slope, and I'm looking at this wall. And again, it starts to pulsate and tingle. And so I thought, oh, that's my key to add frequency again.
Sound.
So again, I did, there's people in there. So I'm kind of humming to myself, but enough to get a vibration. Mm-hmm. And the next magical thing happened, and that is, the pictures that you can stare that are 3D, and when you stare at one particular item,
yes,
it raises off of the page.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. So I'm staring at one particular symbol on the wall, and I have my back against this rock that's in the shape of a cap of a pyramid.
And it's buzzing.
I'm humming. I'm looking at this symbol, and the room becomes 3D.
Whoa.
Almost as if I'm in a 3D movie. It lifts off the wall and tells me a story. Now, I don't understand the story. I don't understand the hieroglyphics.
What were you receiving?
This is how communication happened. This is how they read back then. The ancient knowledge.
Was it just a telepathic experience, or could you hear it and see? Was it everything? Was it all the senses as well? Because you're seeing this in another layer that we don't know as people.
It was visual. Visual to me.
Okay.
So for example, if you were sitting next to me, you wouldn't have had that same experience. So for me, but I didn't have any of the other, besides the vibration. Mm-hmm. It was talking to me. It raised off as if I was stepping into a story. And if I could understand it, I would have had all of the communication instantly like that, because it...
Almost like you were living in a movie.
Yes, that's exactly how I would describe it.
Okay.
And I'm looking around, because now it's 3D. Around? There are people around, and some of the other members had their back, they were next to me, mm-hmm. But nobody was experiencing what I was experiencing. And I just kind of kept that to myself. But I thought, oh, wow. So put that in my toolbox. And so I can take that forward as we continue this pilgrimage. Do you see? So I'm picking up different things along the way. And I thought, wow. So it was an absolutely incredible experience. And I will say, one of the guards along our trip gave the feedback. He said, keep your eyes open when you meditate. And I thought, I've never heard that before. We always meditate with our eyes closed, or you look up to your third eye.
Interesting.
So keep your eyes open. And that, in a sense, validated a little bit about what I experienced, because I had my eyes open and I was staring at one particular symbol.
Wow. Well, that changed your mind on how you're going to do that from now on, right?
Right.
Especially there.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's where I'm going to link back segment. It's just a fascinating experience.
I know. I'm on board. I'm listening.
Wow. And keep in mind, I'm a very logical person.
I know. That's why it's so important for you to share this. That's
yeah.
why you're doing this right now.
I just have that experience, and I thought, my gosh, this is. I need a journal. I need to do something. Do I tell somebody? What do I do? And so I'm thinking this, and we get on the bus.
That's a good question. How were you handling this all internally? Because you're with a group of people that are very open.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said back at the Temple of Esna, I said, go in that chamber. Do you feel anything? And there was not a lot of time at the end after that 10-minute session. And so everybody they were rounding them up.
Right.
So I don't know if they got what I got,
right,
or they got their own experience,
sure,
maybe something even just as miraculous.
Yeah.
So I've just had this experience. We're on the back of a golf cart being driven back to our bus out of the Valley of the Kings, and our bus stops at a gift shop. The gift shop's about 1.5 miles away from these tombs, so very close. And we walk in, and this is the first time where I recognize on the door the flower of life symbol. So now we're going to talk about sacred geometry.
Mm-hmm.
We walk in, and I hadn't bought anything, any kind of trinkets or anything. I was selective throughout this whole trip. I thought, well, maybe here's where I can find something. And the group, again, kind of walks around, and the gentleman who owns the shop was given the tour, and I kind of lagged behind. And he walks the group to a back room. And I thought, oh gosh, maybe I better catch up. I'm going to be left here. And so I follow them around, and I catch the tail end of what he says. He says, this is my grandfather's collection. And everybody says, oh, wow, neat. And this shop has a real mummy, has Coptic has Coptic jars, certificate of authenticity. Remember, we're 1 mile away from the Valley of the Tombs.
There, yeah.
We're there. And so there's a lot of history in this shop. And right in the center of the shop on the floor is a giant flower of life as well. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. So going back to this room, the group starts to disperse. And my one friend, who's the one who took the picture of the angel, goes, Carie, look. Because again, I hadn't found anything. She kind of knows what I was looking for. And Tammy, when I say that it wasn't me moving my arm, again, it was that electromagnetic pull. My arm lifted and went behind the shelf to an item that was tucked back in the corner.
You couldn't even see it?
And she goes, look, and my arm is moving, and I pick this up, and it's heavy. And it's a scabbard of sorts. Mm-hmm. Made of granite. And on the top is a Sekhmet head. I look at this, and that message that I got came through again as I'm holding the smaller Sekhmet.
I have goosebumps again.
Everybody, okay, let me back up. So I said, I have to have this. This is what I'm here for. I love this. And I talked to the owner, and he says, come stand, take your shoes off. Stand in the center of the flower of life. Now, I haven't seen this symbol or been familiar with it until that day.
Really?
And I thought, okay, he wants me to stand in the center of this symbol. Okay. And he says, how does the energy feel on you? And I thought, well, and I'm holding it with both hands, and I hold it up almost like, a Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And there was an audible gasp from everybody in that shop. Looked over. Their mouths dropped open. I remember looking at them, and they're looking at me like, and I'm holding this. It was a surreal moment, and I'm getting that message. Mm-hmm. And I said, the energy feels great. And I'm shaking. And he goes, okay. And so I'm holding this and we're walking around. And I said, I'd like to buy this. And he says, well, it's my grandfather's. And he said, but you have a good heart. So I'll sell it to you. And I thought, wow, the responsibility, the power that came with this. So I was very grateful. And we landed on we collaborated on a price and the whole bit. And then after I bought it, he said, sit down in the flower of life. So now I'm sitting in there and I thought, there must be something to this flower of life.
And you knew nothing about it. I love it. Again, because you're like, this is all new.
Yes. And so, okay, I realized that there's a responsibility with this, but he says, take this. And I brought it, but he gave me the Hathor, the alien mother. He says, because remember, that's the sun and the Hathor, right? The sun god and Hathor, that's their daughter. And so he gives me a Hathor and he says, this is for protection. And he says, I'm just throwing it in. I thought, thank you so much. I thought I'd buy it. And he says, no, it comes together. And so I keep those together now.
Yeah.
And I'm learning more the significance as to why, now, but I didn't at the time. And so we left there and I thought, oh my goodness. So now I've got this beautiful, maybe it's a reproduction of an artifact, but it meant so much to me.
Right. Something happened with it with you.
Mm-hmm. And so I thought, cool, okay, we go, back to the boat and eat dinner. And the next day we're doing our next tour. And we are at the Temple of Sete, Abydos. And in the back, there is a building called a siren. And if, unbeknownst to me, one of the guards says, look there. And it was the flower of life, carved twice in this archway underneath, I would have never seen it. So he points it out. Then somebody gifts me a flower of life coin. Then I see the scarf of the flower of life, and so it's just
showing up everywhere.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, now I've got this flower of life symbol, and come to find out the power, the meaning of the sacred geometry blows my mind. But I didn't know at the time. But now, as a magnet, I'm being gifted, given, shown this symbol everywhere I go from that point forward, and it's still to this day.
Well, do you notice my logo?
Yes. Tammy Tuesday.
That's based on the flower of life.
And we were connected when I got back, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, I've got to talk to you.
That's a perfect example.
Right?
Yes.
I know. You can't make this stuff up.
Mm-mm. So I'm going to just skip to the end. I'm going to skip over Dendara because Dendara was an otherworldly experience that I can't put into words. I will just summarize it as a death and rebirth.
Oh, interesting. That's what you felt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was it because I don't want to totally skip over it. Don't need to dive deep into it, but when you say that, do you feel like for you, it was a death and a rebirth for you?
For me in particular, yes, I was able to ascend and then descend and learn knowledge that I didn't possess before. And it was so comforting, almost as if you can describe if somebody was to pass over and they would see a light and they would get this overwhelming comfort and this overwhelming vibrance of colors. And you were in the most safe, sacred, and loved space.
Right. Like when people have near-death experience.
I had that in the Dendara temple. And I will say that, again, it was activated through sound frequency.
It's amazing how powerful sound is. It creates everything.
the people that were on our pilgrimage, every single one of them played a key role in that activation of that sound frequency, including myself, for me to have that experience. It was a group choir.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That must have been really powerful.
It was. And
a shared group experience.
It was a shared group experience. And others, you had asked, do others have these experiences like you? In Dendara? Absolutely.
Wow.
Everybody walked away with a unique individual experience that was, I would say, equated to the same power.
Well, as part of a collective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. How powerful.
Yeah. It was beautiful. So can you imagine going through all of these, and I'm integrating as I'm going, but then I'm learning something new along the way, and it's just the next day later. And so I'm gathering all of this information, this knowledge and excitement. And, I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's a different time zone and, the whole bit, but
it's a lot of energy.
It's a lot of energy, but I'm loving it.
Right.
Oh, I feel so at home. I'm so excited for the next thing. So now I'm like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
And from Luxor, we needed to get back into Cairo. And included on this pilgrimage, actually wasn't included. The Great Pyramid was not included. But to go back to my stories, that was my mission.
Right.
I will stay, after this ends, to go visit this Great Pyramid. I want to see what it's all about. I need to get in there. And I did. So somehow or another, through all of the arrangements, I ended up by myself going into the Great Pyramid. Mm. The Egyptologist is not supposed to go in, so they stay outside. One of the girls I was with wasn't feeling good. She stayed outside. Another one was back at the hotel. The others were still in Luxor.
So you were truly alone.
I was truly alone. And I walk up and I thought, wow, look at how far I've come from when I was, younger.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm excited. Get me in here. And so I go in.
Seriously, back to the wall and the book and wow.
And I'm standing.
Yeah, or inside of it.
Yes. And so you walk in and there is a very narrow, low hallway, if you will. It's enough for one person, but two people, they're passing you as you come and you instantly start to sweat because it's humid in there.
Right.
But then, so you're crawling through and then it opens up into the king's chamber. And you just start to think, wow, how much weight is on top of you, right? You're in the very center here. And I walked in and I thought, I'm here. This is cool. And I look on all the walls. And the walls appear to be smooth. There are no hieroglyphics. I think the audience are familiar that they've never found a mummy in there. There is a sarcophagus, but it's, there's no hieroglyphics, no mummies. So what really is this? I'm looking around and I see a gentleman behind the sarcophagus on the floor. I thought, oh, what's he doing? And then either his friend or, spouse, whomever was next to him. And I thought, well, I need to do that. Whatever he's doing, I need to do it. And I walk over to him and he says, this is the most sacred spot on earth. And I thought, well, I'm just going to plop right down.
Well, then I'm here.
I'm here. So I sit down next to him and there was a gentleman behind me. So he followed suit. And then there was another lady and she sat down. Now the guard comes up and it's busy in there. There's a few people and it's small.
Tourist, yeah.
And the guard says, you guys need to move along. And he pulls out some money. And then the lady pulls out some money. So here's my money. And we go on down the line. He goes, okay. And so he kind of stops everybody else from coming in. In what felt like 15 minutes, we were able to sit in the king's chamber behind the sarcophagus on the floor. I had my hands in front of me. Again, it's that same magnetic pull. Mm-hmm. And I was able to meditate. And
were your eyes open?
I tried both because I thought, now I don't know what to do. Do I close my eyes? Do I open my eyes? So I did a little of both. Mm-hmm. And About 15 minutes later, he comes in and he says, okay. And then it starts to get noisy again. People start coming in and the whole bit. And when I stood up, one of the ladies that's coming in as I'm
did
leaving.
You say you heard the message again?
I didn't hear the message there.
Okay.
As I'm leaving, the lady that's coming in, she's with another group, looks at me and says, are you a light worker? And I said, yes. Yes, I am. That was the moment.
Claimed yourself.
Where I felt empowered. I claimed that absolutely. And look at my journey from 3-4 years old till that moment. I claimed it in the King's Chamber. We exchanged information, and now she's, a friend of mine on Instagram.
Yeah.
But the fact that she saw that and she said, what are you doing with your hands? And I said, well, I'm feeling the vibration, the magnetic, I'm putting them here, touching basically. And she's like, okay. So she went and she did that. After I'd left, I turned around and she was going to do that, but the guard probably would have.
I want to say something. This is really important. And I have other friends that I know that when you claim something for yourself, you make it true. And the fact that when somebody asked you that, you in your logical mind, the previous Carie that was terrified to, what's a light worker, right? I mean, you said, well, yes, I am.
Yes.
And you stepped into your power. Mm-hmm. How incredible is that?
It
changes everything, doesn't it?
Everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like, it took all of those steps, that entire pilgrimage to kind of show me you are a light worker. And so is everybody else.
Yeah, you start to realize what we are.
Yes.
That's the gift.
That's the gift. And so what's interesting, and I urge, if you're interested, to follow Robert Edward Grant. He's done some research to where now they've discovered that etched on the inside of the King's Chamber are the 12 astrological signs, counterclockwise, etched very lightly. And so you can see it on a site, and they're finding out that perhaps this is more than just, the tomb. Perhaps it is a sound chamber. And perhaps there are various frequencies that you can activate. And so it's really interesting. He's on the cusp of solving this. And I have my own empirical evidence now. And so Robert, if you're listening, I would love to go back with you and do some further research. There is carved on that back part of the sarcophagus is an alpha and an omega shape. Well, what I've learned now, Tammy, is that omega is the hair of Hathor. It's the same shape as our alien mother. Alpha is a brainwave. So could perhaps our sixth brainwave be omega? We've got delta, theta, It starts having you question things. They also, Robert Edward Grant and Will Wire are polymaths. So they take religion, math, sacred geometry, right?
Yep.
Art, and they collaborate and find a code within. And another thing that...
It's like the Da Vinci Code.
It's exactly the Da Vinci Code. That's exactly where I'm going. Perfect segue. They've actually found two things. So the Vitruvian Man, they found that near his navel, there are 3 triangles that represent the 3 pyramids. And if it's divided into 14 sections, chakras and different things. What Robert found is that where he predicts that the throat chakra is on the Vitruvian Man, Cairo University just discovered that piece, that cavern in the King's Chamber. It's coming out.
Oh, wow.
More information. So could this be the throat chakra?
Very interesting. And it said this is the most powerful place on earth. And it's all about sound, which, by the way, is where your throat chakra is, because that's where we project sound.
Yes.
Wow.
So I'm so excited because all of this has brought me to a pinnacle of, learning from them and taking my own experiences and kind of putting it together like a puzzle.
Yeah. I was just going to say, because while you're there, you're just letting yourself experience these things. You're like, I'm not going to go on Google now. I want to just feel this stuff. So when you left there, when you came back, it's funny because that's when you and I started diving into some of these stories. And I was like, whoa. I don't even want to hear all this. I want to wait because I want to share this. I want to hear this for the first time with everybody else because it's so remarkable. So when you came back and you and I had lots of exchanges, but how did you dive into this? Because I'm sure you've been on a big road of discovery since.
Yes. Integrating all of this, I started with just writing it all down. I didn't want to forget anything.
Right.
And so my road to discovery has been, once I got that on paper, sitting back and going, okay, how do I disseminate this? And how do I talk to others who might not be as open-minded to hearing this?
Most people are not.
Right. And so there's been a select few, and you're included. So I really appreciate you reaching out, that I was sharing my true experiences with. And in doing so, again, I've been connected to like-minded people who have similar experiences. And I'm finding a lot of them have meditated in the King's Chamber.
That's really interesting.
I'm finding if I can find a theme.
Yeah.
And then starting to interact and share my stories. And I'm writing a research question. And then I'm also, we can talk about it in a bit. I'm opening my own company so that I can incorporate all of these different things into what I learned and how can I present this ancient knowledge.
How do you share it?
How do I share it to help close the gap? Because I think the human race is ready. And I think it's critical at this point, Tammy.
Oh, well, we are shifting.
We're shifting. And if you just look at myself and how I was running on that little Ferris wheel, think of the human race running on that Ferris wheel. We need to shift to that next step.
Whether it's happening regardless.
Right.
So some people will be part of it and some people will not.
Correct.
And I agree. The more people, better, because it's amazing. And it's everything. It's really, truly who we are. That's what the whole premise of this podcast is about. Who are we? Why are we here? What is this?
Exactly. And, so I went inward. So before I used to look outward, okay, what can this give me or what experience? And now I'm realizing there is a historical significance and, this is great. But what do I feel and how can I process it internally? And how do you do that? Through the meditation, through breath work, through cold plunges, through, all of these different tools we have. But now in my toolbox, I've added frequency, sound frequency.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Some of the different techniques, the different way I look at things.
You're looking with different eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I'm on this journey and I'm just scratching the surface and it's so fascinating. I just want more,
you can't not, I keep getting goosebumps. I get a lot of body confirmation.
Oh, okay.
With things.
Yes.
It's a real thing for me. Like my crown will get really tingly or be on fire or my whole body will be covered.
Wow. Love it.
So I always say it because it means something to me. But the thing that's so amazing is once you start to discover this truth about who you really are and what really is inside of you, it changes everything. And you cannot, I was just having this conversation with one of my dear friends, Adam. It's funny, him and I need to get on here and just talk because we have the most fascinating conversations just whenever we're together.
Yeah.
Well, which is kind of how I am, period. But I can't not go deep, that. That's just who I am. But you can't not go there. You can't not, it's like you can't unknow it. Once you know it and you've discovered like this it's like you've opened up this gateway and you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot not know that. I cannot not explore that. I'm going just like you. You're like, oh, I'm going.
Yes.
I'm doing this. That's what's so beautiful. And it's funny because when you have these types of conversations for people that are listening that are like, what on earth are they talking about? It's real, guys. And it doesn't happen to everybody at the same time. We're all in our own path and we're all in our own timing and it doesn't look the same. Like you were saying, even the experiences you were having with a truly connected group, you were experiencing things totally differently. And that's how it's meant to be.
Yes.
no two people's journey is the same, even though we're all part of a collective. Right. They're not meant to be the same.
Right.
There's reasons that we have different paths so we can connect the dots.
That's exactly right. It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful. Well, that's what makes us connected. It's like, if this is my one wish for the world, is that I wish that as people dig deeper and start to discover their true selves, that they can have the courage to talk about it and share their piece, because that's what connects us. I mean, the fact that you came from this corporate America world, which so many of us have, that's my story too.
Right.
And I haven't had the same experience as you've had, but I've had my own. Mm-hmm. And when the collective starts to share and open up and be honest with what they're experiencing, even if it sounds like you're totally nuts, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because it's really happening for you, and it is your truth, and it's crucial to speak it.
Absolutely. And I didn't know that back then, and now I completely agree. I would have maybe kept some of that inside, and what a shame, right?
Well, most people do, and honestly, that's also okay.
Yeah.
I understand and respect that, because like you said, you were a little kid and you kept it inside because this is scary and foreign, and I want to just fit in.
Yeah.
And that's also okay. But when it gets to the point where it's bubbling up out inside of you so much that you cannot not experience and feel it, and it's just oozing out of you, just let it.
Yes.
That's it.
Just speak your truth.
Just let it. That is my biggest message. Just speak your truth. Mm-hmm. Because if you speak your truth and somebody thinks you look like you've got, bugs crawling out of your ears, who cares?
Yeah.
They're not meant. You're not meant for each other right now. That's also okay.
Exactly. And they at their own pace.
Yeah. And they may eventually come to their own realization. They may not. Also,
and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, and that's why these deep level conversations, I mean, this was me, even having these topics are going out on a limb for me, because people have known me in a totally different space.
Right.
And when you have these types of conversations and I can engage and understand because I have my own, it's a little scary, because you're like, some people are going to go, oh my gosh, Tammy has lost her marbles. I'm sorry, guys, but it's okay. If you think that, it's fine. I'm really okay with that.
Exactly. No, the same thing. I thought, how deep shall I go into these topics? And I thought, I'm just going to be my true, authentic self.
You have to speak your truth, because you've had some amazing, beautiful experiences. Why would you not share that with the world?
Right. Yeah.
Why would you hold that back?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I'm grateful that people more and more are having the courage to do that. And that's why platforms like this are created. It's chakra. All my stuff's all throat chakra. And that's why I'm speaking.
Wow. Yeah.
So the throat chakra is big for me specifically, because I know it's part of my path.
Yeah.
It's huge. I'm supposed to speak this stuff. I'm supposed to share this stuff audibly with people on this earth so they can have their own experiences and take it as part of the piece. And, that resonates, that doesn't, whatever.
Right.
Because some of it does, some of it doesn't.
To everybody. Yep. No.
So in your personal life, like your husband and your kids, because this is a big thing for people. And again, going back to the courage of speaking your truth, because again, people are on their own paths and in their own timing, and you're saying things like you're saying. How is it received in your personal close group, your people?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I will be honest that it's not received favorably at times. Mm-hmm. There are people close to me that are, if you think I'm logical, they're extremely logical. And I can talk a bit about it, but then I find that I have to kind of veer off and change the subject or lighten the intensity of what happened.
Right.
And I do that often.
Well, that's the thing. You really do need to know your audience. It's like I tell, even just in basic human things, like with my kids, my boys, they can drop the F-bomb all day long. I could care less. But it's like, I always say, just know your audience. Maybe you're not going to say that in front of your teacher or, your grandmother. But just know your audience. Know what is appropriate. And you'll know real quick.
Yes.
Especially with topics like this.
Yes.
And they're like, oh my gosh. Like some people may have tuned this out immediately when they started listening. Like, nope, I'm not interested in this one. It's okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's true with your close-knit network. like your tribe, people that are in your life and they're not going anywhere out of your life.
Right.
You just need to learn what they're ready for. And sometimes they're not ready for all of it. And that's okay. And you have to just trust and understand that.
Yes.
That when you can share it, you got to get it out.
That's right.
So that's why you got to find the people. And that, like you said, all of a sudden people start coming into your life.
Yes.
That are meant to be there because you can.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're speaking your truth.
That's right. And then they might bring an added piece that I didn't think of it that supplements what I've said or their own experience.
Exactly.
And it's just so interesting to share.
It is, isn't
back
it?
and forth.
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's just another piece in the puzzle, each one of us. That's what's so cool. And that's what really keeps us so connected.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I just don't even have words for it. And I know you understand. And I could go on and on about how amazing I think it is. But so, okay, tell me now that you're on this journey and you're really on a journey.
Yeah.
What is next? What are you doing? Because you said you're starting a business. Like what's next for you?
Yeah. Well, when I got back and I'm doing all this integration and going inward and the whole bit, and I thought, well, I want more.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn more. I'm always been a continuous learner, but and not only do I want to learn, I want to share. I'm comfortable sharing now.
Good.
And like you said, some might not be interested, others might not be ready, and others are a step ahead of me. So I can meet those that, wherever they are in their journey. And I thought, well, what now is my legacy? I've had this corporate role. I've done a lot of good work, but is that my legacy? No. How can I impact society now? And so I thought, well, what do I love? Well, I love travel and I love learning and I'm an educator. So I thought, well, let's put those together. And how can I incorporate this newfound knowledge? So I am going to open a travel company. It's called Earth Years.
I love this.
And the travel company, if you think of a polymath approach, it's going to show the historical side, but it's also going to give a bit of the spiritual perspective. And it's also going to have a philanthropic initiative. So, for example, if we were going to Egypt, of course, you'll learn the history side, but then we're going to introduce you to some of these so you can have your own experience. It doesn't have to be my experience, but something to where you can have your own empirical evidence. We're going to elevate your memories with travel.
Wow.
And then while we're there, we're also wanting to give back in a philanthropic sense. So perhaps that there are groups that are already established that we can, let's say, for example, donation. A lot of times when you donate, you're not sure where the money goes to. It's going to be an immediate frontline donation, meaning those that are on the travel will also participate and visit the orphanage or give back.
That's cool.
So that will be one of the days on the trip.
Wow. That's really cool. An experiential give back.
Yeah. Yeah. Mixed in.
Huge.
Yes. And I really just want people to have the opportunity, and then from where they are, open their mind and see what they feel, and then share their experiences, just like I did. Because boy, I'll tell you, I wasn't expecting what I got. And now that I have that, I want others to have the opportunity to experience that.
That's amazing. That's so perfectly, well, it's been given to you and you're taking it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
And I know you know that.
Yeah.
This has been given to you. Mm-hmm. So you best run with it. That's so right. Cool.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what's the timing of all this? Because I know people that will listen will be like, well, I want to go on one of her tours.
Yes. Well, I'm actively working on it right now. Okay. I'm working with Will Wire to get the logo set up. And actually we're trying to incorporate some sort of sacred geometry so that the logo has more of a substantial meaning to that. And then I'm looking at 24 to 25 to have this launched. We did secure the website. So it's www.earthyears.org. Earthyears.org.
Okay.
Right. It's not up yet, but we're working on that. Yeah. And
who's we? Are you working with others on this?
I'm The majority is myself.
Right.
So I'm doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but I can't do it all.
Sure.
And I recognize that. And so that's why I'm collaborating with some of my heroes, my polymath heroes, to get their input and feedback. And I'm willing to pivot my mission or my vision if they feel that there's something else that I need to add.
Right.
So we're working on that right now.
Well, that's all you can do is it just shifts into what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And as long as you're open to it, it'll be exactly what it's meant to be.
Yes. Yes. So I'm really excited.
Carie, that's so cool because you hadn't told me that yet. And I'm really excited for you. I know you're up for the task and it will be hugely successful because you're doing it from your heart. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's real.
Yeah.
That's purpose. I mean, that's real purpose. So I love every element of it. I just love it. I'm so grateful that I was able to see. And it's funny, we've talked a little bit about social media and just to wrap things up, but we've talked about social media on other episodes that we've had and the sharing your truth again. And you were one of those friends that I wasn't super close with, but I knew we were acquaintances. And I said, something's going on over there. And I'm telling this to anybody that's listening. If you're seeing something in someone that's intriguing to you, reach out, even if you don't know them, because I have goosebumps. There's a reason that you're seeing it. And there's a reason that you're interested in knowing more about it. So just dive in. Don't be afraid because there's something happening and it's usually incredible.
Absolutely. And on that topic, I talked about synchronicity. Mm-hmm. Typically I would say, well, that's synchronicity, right? I need to reach out to this person. And now I'm finding just through my studies and my travel and my experiences, it's more of an electromagnetic pull. We are electromagnetic beings. The sun gives away electromagnetic. And throughout Egypt, you'll see the sun, God Ra, above every one of those sacred spaces that I was in.
Yeah.
And so I'm feeling that there is a connection there. And so when you're saying if you're drawn or you feel pulled or you notice something,
it's real.
It's real.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
It's in simple terms that people know. It's the law of attraction.
Correct.
It's what's happening. So just
trust
let go and just let it happen because it's happening for reasons. Yes. Just trust it.
Yes.
Because it's pulling you for a reason.
Yes.
So that's why you get to make such cool connections. And look at what now you've gotten to share with, more people, what you're doing and what you experienced. I mean, I know there's so much more. We could talk about it for days. I know that. But anyway, I'm so grateful that you shared with me first. Some of it, because I told you not to share everything because I wanted to hear it right here. But I'm just grateful that you are willing to come on here and speak your truth. It's so important for the world to feel safe in that. Mm-hmm. It's okay, guys, to just be honest with where you're at. Don't be afraid. Don't shy away from it. It's beautiful. It's your gift.
Yeah, I've never felt more at peace, more, I'm just happy. I'm blissful, I think is the word.
Well, isn't it interesting?
When I'm not trying to put a spin on something to fit into a box.
No. And that's the beauty of it. As soon as you just surrender, that was my word last year, surrender. That's what my key says, surrender. Mm-hmm. And my surrender is to God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. I'm perfectly comfortable calling it God, but it's when you just surrender to this power and what this purpose-filled life is for you, oh my gosh, you just feel so much better. Yes. You feel blissful and joyful. And the things will still slap you, but they pass so much quicker. Yeah. You're like, that hurt. Okay, done.
Yes.
Instead of, oh my gosh, I'm going to dwell in this pain. It changes your perspective on the little things get a little easier.
Absolutely. It's that balance. You're in alignment now.
Exactly. So anyway, I'm grateful to you for being here. I appreciate you immensely as a friend, and I cannot wait to see what comes of this journey that you'll continue to walk because we're on the journey for eternity.
We are. And
so it never ends.
It doesn't. I don't want it to.
Yeah,
it's so fun. Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity because I will tell you, I thought, oh gosh, should I do this, right? Should I speak my truth? And I'm going to end with this. I was still a little fearful of talking my truth to a group of people who I don't know. Mm-hmm. And my parting words are, as I was leaving the airport in Luxor, heading to Cairo, I was fearful of passing the 5 security marks to get onto that plane. And the lady next to me said, Carie, just take one step forward. Now, remember, I have these artifacts and these different things. Right. And so I took one step forward. And so I'll leave you with, if you're nervous, if you're scared, if you're fearful, just take one step.
That's beautiful advice.
And that's what I did. And I'm here and I'm excited and I'm so thankful for the opportunity.
Oh, that's a beautiful message to leave with, because it's so true. Just take a step. Just one step. Just one. You don't have to run the marathon. Just take a step. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So thank you all for joining us today. This was so much fun. I really loved this one. Please don't forget, we appreciate you immensely when you click subscribe, follow, like, comment, anything that you see that you like or whatever it is, your feedback. We'd love to get your feedback. And we will continue on. You can find more information on TammyTuesday.com. You can follow us on social media, Instagram at TammyTuesdayLife for more information. Always sending you with love and light. And remember, life, love, purpose, it all begins with you. Peace out.